And you started this too. Come on, man. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalam ala ashraf al-anbiya'i wa mursaleen. Nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma anfa'na bima 'allamtana wa 'allamna ma yanfa'una. Allahumma zidna 'ilman innaka anta 'alimul hakim. اللهم اجعل هذه محاضرة حجة لنا لا حجة علينا يا رب العالمين أما بعد. Today, inshallah ta'ala, we missed class last week. So our intention, inshallah ta'ala, is to have class tonight and tomorrow as well. We're trying to get through quite a few hadith that we like to cover, inshallah, before Ramadan comes. We stopped, whoever has this printed out, we stopped on hadith number 3. Well, actually, hadith number 2. We're going to start hadith number 3 tonight. Remember, we're going over the book. What book are we covering? No one knows. Mushkila. Huh? The book of fasting? From what compilation? Usul al-Fiqh? No. Umdat al-Ahkam. Who's the author of the book? Did we talk about it a couple weeks ago? No one knows the author? This one there? Who's the author? Abdul Ghani al-Maqdisi. MashaAllah. Mumtaz. All right. So we have quite a few hadith to cover tonight, inshallah. We're going to start with the hadith an Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu ta'ala an قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم تسحروا فإن في السحور بركة تسحروا فإن في السحور بركة. What does that say in the English? What does it say? It says, take suhoor, for in suhoor there is blessing. طيب. What does that mean? What is suhoor? Does anyone know what suhoor is? What is it? Yes. The meal you eat before the Fajr prayer. طيب. On this meal that you eat before the Fajr prayer, what's the ruling of it? Is it wajib? Do you have to have this meal? And if you don't have this meal, does your fast still count? I've heard people, they say that if you do not take the suhoor, then you don't have any fast. Is that correct? No, it's incorrect. So then the suhoor is, what's the ruling? Remember, rulings of Islam are 5 types. Which one is it? Mustahab. Mustahab, that means that it is recommended. It's a command from the Prophet ﷺ, but it's a recommended thing to do. طيب. What time is suhoor? What time is it? Anytime before. So there's a time, it's called waqt al-sahar. Sahar is a time. What time is that? The time of sahar is right before Fajr. And we're going to cover in other ahadith that speak to that. What is the blessing? When they say that there's a blessing in taking the suhoor, what is the blessing? What does that mean? What type of reward? Mumtaz. So the ulama, they say that the suhoor, this is general, they say that the suhoor, or summarize rather, they say that the suhoor, or I'm sorry, the barakah, the blessing, there are 2 types. There's a dunyawi, meaning in our worldly life benefit, and there's a ukhrawi, which means in the next life benefit. The benefit in the dunya is that what? It strengthens the body throughout the course of the day. If a person, as many of the scholars mentioned, if a person is fasting all day, no food, you might be easily disturbed, irritated, easily. Is that true? Yeah. So then they say that the suhoor helps to prevent that. ukhrawi, in the next life, the barakah, the blessing is that it's sunnah. So you get reward from following the way of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. You'll see that inshallah in the next life. Is that clear? طيب. The next hadith. Hadith number 4. طيب. عن أنس ابن مالك عن زيد بن ثابت رضي الله تعالى عنه قال تسحرنا مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ثم قام إلى الصلاة قال أنس قلت لزيد كم كان بين الأذان والسحور قال قدر 50 آية. طيب. In this hadith it says عن أنس. I wonder if in this copy here what does it say? طيب. So it says in this hadith, they said tasaharna, meaning we had suhoor with the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, thumma qama ila salat, and then they stood to pray. When they stood to pray here, I don't know what it says here. It says, and then they stood up for prayer. This prayer here is salatul fajr. The prayer here, they stood up to pray salatul fajr. Qala Anas, and then Anas said, he said, I said to Zayd, how long was the time between the adhan and the suhoor? What does that mean? What was the time between the interval? How long was the interval between the adhan and the suhoor? When they say the adhan and suhoor, what are they talking about here in this hadith? Does anyone know? Not you, I know you know. Next, somebody else. What are they talking about between the adhan and suhoor? Mumtaz, which adhan? So there are two adhans. The first one is to wake you up, and the next one is what? طيب. I'm going to read this this different narration. Here's قال لي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يا أنس. So the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, he said to Anas, he says, إني أريد الصيام أطعمني شيئا. He said, I want to eat, so give me something. فجدته بتمر. He said, I gave him a date. وإناء فيه ماء. And I gave him a bowl and it had water. وذلك بعد أذن بلال. That was after the adhan of Bilal. So then there were two adhans during the time of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. The adhan of Bilal and the adhan of, anyone know? The adhan of who? Ibn Maktoum, right? Right. So he says, وبعد أذان بلال قال يا أنس انظر رجلا يأكل معي فدعوت زيد بن ثابت فجاء تسحر معه ثم قام فصلى ركعتين ثم خرج إلى الصلاة. In this particular narration here, they showed that once they heard the adhan of Bilal, what did they do? What did they do? They started to eat suhoor, mumtaz. And then he says in another part here, it says فعلى هذا فمراد بقوله كم كان بين الأذان والسحور أي أذان ابن مكتوم. The next one was the adhan of Ibn Maktoum. So what this is saying is that when they ask what is the time between the adhan and suhoor, what are they talking about exactly? The suhoor and what? And the adhan of Ibn Maktoum. So they say there's qadr 50 ayah. From that adhan to the time of the salah. So when Ibn Maktoum made the adhan, this meant that it was time for what? It was time for Fajr. That means it's time to stop eating. It's time to pray. So from that time to that time, it took the amount to recite 50 ayah. Now, some of the ulama may differ in terms of how long that would take from one person to the next person, right? So, Allahu alam, what that would be today. You passing out the... Right. He's passing out the ahadith if you don't have it, inshallah. طيب. And then another narration, وقد قال صلى الله عليه وسلم, and the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, he said in the Sahihain, which is Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, وغيرهما من حديث عائشة, and other than that, in a narration of Aisha رضي الله تعالى عنها, إن بلالا كان يؤذن بالليل. She said that Bilal would make the adhan at night. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كلوا واشربوا حتى يؤذن ابن مكتوم. He said, eat and drink until you hear the adhan of Ibn Maktoum. فإنه لا يؤذن حتى يطلع الفجر. He said, for indeed he does not make the adhan until it is time for Fajr. طيب. Here's a benefit, another benefit we could take from that hadith. Some of the scholars of the past will say, يُسَنُّ تَأْخِيرُ السُّحُورِ, delay the suhoor, delay it. And they say this is an ijma, consensus of the scholars, to delay the suhoor if you can. To delay the suhoor if you can. طيب. There's a lot of different masail issues that come from these hadith, but we're not going to go into all of them. We'll stop on some of the hadith and dig into it, but some of them we won't. The next hadith is An Aisha wa Salama. Now this hadith, we're going to talk about this a little bit. This hadith was reported by Aisha wa Salama. Who is Aisha and who is Salama? Huh? I'm sorry? The wives of the Prophet ﷺ. Aisha wa Salama, both of them were the wives of the Prophet ﷺ. It says, رضي الله تعالى عنهما أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يدركه الفجر وهو جنب من أهله ثم يغتسل ويصوم. طيب. What does it say in English? All right. So it said that in this hadith, it says that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would reach Fajr and he would be in a state of sexual impurity from his wives. ثُمَّ يَغْتَسِلُ وَيَصُومُ, and then he would make a ghusl and then he would fast. There are a lot of things you can pull from this hadith. But somebody may say, if a person's looking at this hadith during the time of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, why was it necessary that Aisha and Salama both mention this? This is a question to ask yourself. That's number one. Number two, as it relates to this particular hadith, why didn't some of them could have said he just made a ghusl before. Why would he mention sexual impurity? There's a reason for that too. Why did anybody think that is? Crickets. First of all, let's understand what the hadith means. What does this hadith mean? Does anyone know? Yes.
Suhoor is not wajib.
What does this have to do with suhoor? He could have got so then we don't know about it. They said that he woke up and it was time for what? It says, كَانَ يُدْرِكُهُ الْفَجْرُ وَهُوَ جُنُبٌ. It doesn't necessitate that he was asleep. He could have been up. He just didn't make a ghusl until Fajr. Does that make sense? Is that possible? لا يمنع. يعني this hadith doesn't mean that didn't happen. We're just looking at this hadith alone. It says, كَانَ يُدْرِكُهُ الْفَجْرُ وَهُوَ جُنُبٌ. Fajr would come in and he would still be in a state of sexual impurity. Some of the ulama, they mentioned that the Prophet, a mafrood, that it's important, or a person should make a ghusl after they finish, they should make a ghusl right away before they go to sleep. They said that the Prophet ﷺ did that to show that it is permissible to go to sleep, wake up, still be in a state of sexual impurity, and it doesn't mess with your fast. Does that make sense? A person can go to sleep, wake up, still be in a state of sexual impurity, and it doesn't affect your fast, meaning you still can fast that day. A person might wake up, oh shoot, I missed, for example, it's possible a person can wake up and say, oh man, I missed suhoor. And Fajr's in, and I'm in a state of impurity, I need to make a ghusl. I just lost my fast. A person might think that, right? Right? Or no? It's possible. Right. So in this particular hadith, it's an emphasis showing that this can be done. Now, in another narration, an Aisha radiallahu ta'ala an, she says, كَانَ يُدْرِكُهُ الْفَجْرُ فِي رَمَضَانِ مِنْ غَيْرِ حَلْمٍ. That this would happen in Ramadan, and it wasn't from having nocturnal emission or wet dream. This was not from that. Question: why did she make mention that it was not from a wet dream? What would be the purpose of her differentiating and separating between the two? There's a reason for that. Yes.
Permissibility of being intimate with your wife during.
So he said, it shows the permissibility of being intimate with your wife during the night in Ramadan. Cool. What else? So a wet dream, said a wet dream you can't control. Excellent. That's something you can control. Good. That's a good point. Anyone else? Right. Hold on to that. In another narration in An-Nisa'i, it says, min ghayri ihtilam. In another narration, it says it was not from a wet dream or nocturnal emission. Right? Right. And in another narration, it says, وَكَانَ يُصْبِحُ جُنُوبًا minni. And one of his wives said he would wake up with sexual impurity from me the night before. Now, the reason why this was mentioned is because you'll find in Sahih Muslim, there's a narration from Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala where he says that there's a narration of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam where he says, "An Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam man adrakahu al-fajr junuban fala yasum." There's a narration that says that if a person wakes up for Salatul Fajr during Ramadan and he is in a state of sexual impurity, then he can't fast. There's a narration that says that. So then here you have this narration from both of his wives, alayhi salatu wasalam, saying, no, he woke up from with me. This is why both of his wives mentioned to show emphasis to oppose that narration. Did that make sense? So then the question now would be, who would know better about the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam waking up? Not one wife, but how many? Two wives are narrating about the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam waking up in Ramadan in a state of sexual impurity, as opposed to the narration of Abu Hurairah on Fadl. On Fadl meaning it was on Fadl, one of the other companions. So now what's the problem? We have two hadith, both one is in Bukhari, Muslim, and the other one is in Sahih Muslim. What's the problem? The problem here is that in this other narration is mansukh. What does mansukh mean? Mansukh means that the narration of Abu Hurairah is abrogated. It's abrogated, meaning it's no longer valid. In our religion, there are narrations that came from the Prophet ﷺ that are valid at one point, but then later on it gets removed. This is called, it's abrogated. In English or in Arabic it's called mansukh, and in English it's called it's abrogated. It means that this hadith is no longer valid. So much so that when this was going on, Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala, and he says, La wa Rabbi, he swore by Allah, La wa Rabbi hadal bayt. He said, I swear by the Lord of this house, he says, Ma ana quttu, man adrakahu as-subh wa huwa junub fala yasum, Muhammadun wa Rabb al-Ka'ba qalahu. He said, I swear, I wasn't the one who said this, rather than Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said it. This is coming from Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala an. And then they found out that in this particular, maybe he did hear this, but then as the scholars mentioned that hadith was mansukh. And there's a lot of kalam about it, but the hadith is mansukh. So then if a person tells you that, hey, if you wake up in a state of sexual impurity, then you can't fast, then we know that this is incorrect. Why? Because not one, two wives of the Prophet ﷺ said that, well, he woke up from with me and he still fasted and he wasn't in the state of, and he was in a state of sexual impurity. Any questions? Time on test. The next hadith. We got to roll. The next hadith. In the last part of the hadith, just so that we're clear, it says, ثُمَّ يَقْتَسِلُ وَيَصُومُ. So the Prophet ﷺ woke up in a state of sexual impurity. He made a ghusl and he fasted for that day. That's what the remaining of the hadith says. All right. The next hadith. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال من نسي وهو صائم فأكل أو شرب فليتم صومه فإنما أطعمه الله وسقاه. In this hadith in English, it says, whoever forgets he was fasting, so he ate or drank, let him complete his fast. It was Allah that fed him and gave him something to drink. Now, this hadith, there's a lot of different things we could take from this hadith. The first thing is, this particular fast, right? Does this apply for a sunnah fast or an obligatory fast? Or does it matter? Pay attention. In order for us to fast an obligatory fast, what needs to be present? Well, firstly, let me ask you this. What's the difference from fasting a sunnah fast or an obligatory fast? The preparation for it. Is there a difference in your preparation or is it the same? Rather, what is the preparation before a person fasts? What needs to be done? The intention. Mumta, excellent. Right. When does this intention take place? The day of, the day before, 2 days before, a week before, an hour before, 5 minutes before you go to sleep? Before Fajr, after Maghrib. So after Maghrib is also what? Before Fajr. Before Fajr of the next day. Is that for the Sunnah fast or the obligatory, or it doesn't matter? So what about the Sunnah? So it don't matter.
Intentions is intention. You make intentions want to do something. You make an intention.
Mumtaz. So what if I wake up on Monday, the whole day, I don't eat anything, I don't drink anything, and it's almost Maghrib. I'm like, dang, I didn't even eat or drink. Let me just make my intention 30 minutes before Maghrib to fast for that whole day. Can I get that fast? He say no. Who says no? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't scratch your head. Shake, hold your hand. It's cool. Stand on it. You say no. Right. Whoever says no, huh? The question was, if a person, you didn't eat or drink the whole entire day, and you look at your clock, it's Monday. It could be any day. It's a regular day. Well, do it matter? Explain. How does it matter? Oh, I'm asking, you said it matter. I'm asking you, how does it matter? Oh, we're not talking about Ramadan. We're talking about a regular day. Right now, we're not talking about Ramadan. Because we cleared that Ramadan has to be the day before. So it's clear it can't be Ramadan. Right, Mumtaz. So, the day, got the whole day. Maghrib is like in an hour. You like, dang, I didn't eat or drink. Let me make my intention real quick to fast so I can get that reward for the whole day of fasting. But I really I didn't eat because I ain't had nothing to eat. So I can fast even if it's 20 minutes, I can still get the reward for fasting? He says no. Yup, what does yup mean? Oh, you get the reward? You sure? All right, what you think, Sheikh? Yeah, you can't. Why can't you? It just don't sound right. It sound like cheating. That's fair. Listen. The brothers, real quick. The brother said it sounded like cheating. What do you think?
He didn't eat that day, I believe. I'm mistaken. And he said, well, he didn't have food that day. And he said, well, very then I will fast.
So what you gotta say about that? You gonna go with the hadith? I'm gonna tell you. So there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he said, an authentic hadith, he came to the house of Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, and he was looking for food, meaning he wanted to eat. His intention was to eat. She said, we don't have any food. He said, all right, for inni sa'imun. He said, all right, I'm on fast.
So then I'm gonna say yes to that.
Well, I'm not. Yeah. So the thing is, that's the mercy of our religion. You planned on eating, but there was no food. So, well, dang, if there's no food, let me just go and get some reward and just fast. Right? Right. So then back to this. In this particular hadith, he said that if a person, it says, man nasiya wa huwa sa'imun. If a person is asleep, if a person breaks their fast and they don't do it intentionally, right? According to hadith, he still get that fast, right? Now, is that only for Ramadan or outside of Ramadan? Well, it doesn't matter. Huh? In general, based on what? If you look at the hadith, what do the hadith say? It says whoever forgets. It doesn't specify a time. It says whoever. Men nasiya wa huwa sa'imun. Whoever forgets while he's fasting. It doesn't say fast Ramadan, fasting outside of Ramadan. It just says fasting. Right? Whoever fasts. Whoever fasts, whether it's an obligatory fast or a sunnah fast. فَأَكَلَ أَوْ شَرِبَ. It says whether they ate or drank a little or a lot. So that means, let's say, for example, it's Ramadan. You know what I'm saying? Some of us, we work around a lot of non-Muslims. Ramadan's tomorrow, for example. You go to work, you usually go to lunch with your coworkers. You're not thinking. Lunch come in, like that, order me this, and this. You eat your whole food. You're like, that was a nice joint. And then you realize, oh, shoot, today was Ramadan. Anybody ever do that? No, nobody did that. All these people here, nobody did that. I did it before. I ate a whole meal. It's when yes, not recently. It was a long time ago. It's a lot, but I did it. I was a new shahada. I did it. None of you, but all these brothers, nobody did that. Don't nobody see you on camera. It's just me. I'm standing on mine. So listen. So the thing is, if a person eats food, whether it's a lot or a little, and you did it mistakenly, do you still get the fast? طيب. Now, in this narration, وقد روى عبد الرزاق عن عمرو بن دينار أن إنسانا جاء إلى أبي هريرة. So there's a man who came to Abu Hurairah رضي الله تعالى عنه. He says, فقال أصبحت صائما. He said, I woke up fasting. فنسيت فطعمت. He said, I forgot, so I ate something. And then he said, فقال لا بأس. Abu Hurairah says, no problem. Then he says, ثم دخلت على إنسان. He said, then I entered upon a person that I knew. I forgot again, and I ate and I drank something. In the same day, all on the same day. He says, فَقَالَ لَا بَأْسَ. Abu Hurairah says, no problem. Allah fed you and Allah gave you something to drink. Then he said, دَخَلْتُ عَلَى آخَرٍ. And then I entered upon someone else that I knew, فَنَسِيت. And I forgot and I ate something again. So Abu Hurairah, he said to him, أَنْتَ إِنسَانٌ لَمْ تَتَعَوَّدْ لِلصِّيَامِ. Or لِلصِّيَامِ. He said, you're a person that's not used to fasting. But Abu Hurairah didn't say, you lose your fast for that. He said you're just a person that's not used to fasting. This is for the new Muslim to understand this. Many of us are converts, right? As a new Muslim coming into your first Ramadan, you may forget. Don't beat yourself up. If your intention is to fast, you start off the day fasting, I forgot I was fasting. I had a whole meal. Let me chill. You go on a couple hours, you eat some, oh shoot, I forgot. Man, at the end of the day, can you imagine a Muslim going through that throughout their whole day? And at the end of the day, like, man, I just lost this fast. I'm going to just break it anyway because I didn't get the reward for it because I kept eating. Did that make sense? Can you see how somebody could fall into that? So this hadith serves as a reminder to us to let you know, listen, this happened during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. All it means is that you're not used to fasting. That's it. Don't let it beat you down. You're human. Get over it. And you don't lose the fast. So just think about this. The day you're supposed to be fasting Ramadan, or you're struggling, you had a whole meal that day and still got the reward for fasting. It's a ni'mah. That's from the beauty and the blessings of our religion. Alhamdulillah. Right. There are also some other issues that we're not going to get into. It has to do with other things, and we're not going to talk about that in this class. Not today. The next hadith. In this narration, An Abi Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala an. So I'm gonna translate this hadith as we go piece by piece because it's a long hadith. An Abi Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala an قال بينما نحن جلوس عند رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذ جاءه رجل. They said that we were sitting with the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام and a man came to him. فجاءه رجل. A man came to him. فقال يا رسول الله هلكت. He said, O Messenger of Allah, I am destroyed. So think about this. A man came to the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام and he said, I'm destroyed. قال ما لك. And Nabi عليه الصلاة والسلام said, what's up with you? What happened? قال وقعت على امرأتي وأنا صائم. And it says another narration, أصبت أهلي في رمضان. He said, I had intercourse with my wife in Ramadan. Question. Can a person have intercourse with their spouse in the daytime in Ramadan? Can a person have intercourse with their spouse after Maghrib in Ramadan? Can a person forget that they're fasting and have intercourse with their wife in the daytime in Ramadan? This is where many of the scholars say no. Many of the ulama say no. Many scholars say it's one thing to forget. So if we look at the hadith that we just covered, that was another conversation in it. Can a man have intercourse with his wife out of forgetfulness? Many ulama say no, because that takes a lot to consider, knowing that you're fasting. Whereas eating, you can eat without thinking about it. You're not going to be intimate without what? Thinking about it. And Allah knows best. Fi kalam. There's a lot of kalam on that. طيب. So here, he said, he says, وَقَعْتُ عَلَى إِمْرَأَتِي. So that means he intentionally did what? Intercourse with his spouse in the daytime in Ramadan. And he came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, I'm destroyed. I destroyed myself. فَقَالَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. So the first thing the Prophet ﷺ did was he tried to come up with a cure, ilaj, something to fix his situation. So he says, هَلْ تَجِدُ رَقَبَةً تُعْتِقُهَا. He said, do you have a slave that you can free? قَالَ لَا. The man said no. قَالَ فَهَلْ تَسْتَطِيعُ أَن تَصُومَ شَهْرَيْنِ مُتَتَابِعَيْنِ. He said, are you able to fast 2 consecutive months, meaning back to back? قَالَ لَا. He said no. قَالَ فَهَلْ تَجِدُ إِطْعَامَ سِتِّينَ مِسْكِينًا. He said, can you feed 60 people? Now, those 3 things, as the ulama mentioned, those 3 things are the penalty that a person must pay if they have intercourse in the daytime in Ramadan. These three things are in succession, meaning the first thing you have to do what? Free a slave. If you can't free a slave, then the next step is what? Fast. 2 months, back to back. And then the third thing is what? Feed 60 people. The man said to the Prophet ﷺ, out of all three things, I can't do none of them. I can't free a slave, I can't fast 2 months, and I definitely can't feed 60 people. So what did the Prophet ﷺ? He says, فَمَكَثَ النَّبِيُّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. So the Prophet ﷺ, he sat there for a while and didn't say anything. He sat there for a while and didn't say anything. فبين نحن على ذلك أوتي النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بأرق فيه تمر. While they were in that situation, a man came to the Prophet ﷺ with like a branch with dates on it, like a tree branch with dates on it, and gave it to the Prophet ﷺ. فقال أين السائل? So the Prophet ﷺ said, where's that questioner? Where's the guy who said he was the short? Where is he? قال أنا. He said, I'm him. This is me. So the Prophet ﷺ said, خُذْ هَذَا فَتَصَدَّقْ بِهِ. Take this and give it out in charity. Meaning take those dates that are all connected to the branch. Take this and give it away in charity. So what the man said after that was made the Prophet ﷺ laugh. He says, فَقَالَ الرَّجُلُ عَلَى أَفْقَرُ مِنِّي يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. He said, O Messenger of Allah, are you telling me that I got to give these dates out to somebody poorer than me? Meaning, I need these dates for myself. We hurting. So the Prophet ﷺ said, so the man says, فَوَاللَّهِ مَا بَيْنَ لَابَتَيْهَا يُرِيدُ الْحَرَّتَيْنِ أَهْلُ بَيْتٍ أَفْقَرُ مِنْ أَهْلِ بَيْتِي. He said to the Prophet ﷺ, there's nobody poorer. And they mentioned 2 mountains in Medina. They said there's nobody poorer in this place than me. So in other words, he couldn't free a slave because he didn't have any what? What? In order to have a slave, you got to have what? You got to have money. Fasting 2 months, that means he's probably not eating. So he said, how am I fast 2 months? I barely eat. Feeding 60 people is definitely out of the question. So someone came to the Prophet ﷺ with some dates and said to the Prophet ﷺ, he said to him, take these dates and give it out in charity. The man said, I need this myself, for real. Like, we hurting. I can't give it away because I need it myself. So the Prophet ﷺ, he says, فَضَحِكَ النَّبِيُّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ حَتَّى بَنَتْ أَنْيَابُهُ ثُمَّ قَالَ أَطْعِمْهُ أَهْلَكَ. The Prophet ﷺ, he laughed so hard that you could see his teeth. And then he said, take this and give it to your family. Now, here's the deal. The ulama, they have different positions on this. According to the school of Imam Ahmed, if anyone fits this situation, this is the position, the relied upon position, then they don't have to pay anything because they're unable to fulfill any conditions, right? And the other madhahib, the other schools of thought, the Islamic jurists, they say no, you're still obligated to do one of those things. You're still obligated. So then the difference of opinion here is if you are able, then obviously you should. There's no difference in that. But if you're unable, according to school Imam Ahmed, then it's removed following this hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. The opposers say no. They say that this narration was specific for that man. Some of them say this narration was specific for that man. Rather than the other ulama, they say, yeah, it was specific for him, but this doesn't apply to everyone else. Then you still have to figure out a way to pay off that debt. Out of those three, yes. Now,
You said, I just want to make sure you were correct. This is not a choice. You have to be in that order.
so the ulama says ala tartib. Ala tartib means order. There's a difference. Sometimes when we read through a hadith and it says do this, ala ikhtiyar. Like for example, if a person halaf bil yameen or something like that, if they make a promise, wallahi something and you khalif, or any type of thing they go against, there's a penalty. In this case, someone says you have a choice. You can fast 3 days, you can feed 3, it depends. But here, in this particular narration, is mentioned in order. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ, the first thing he said to him was, free a slave. Before the man knew it was a choice, he only had that first command. Sah? And Nabi ﷺ, he said to him, A'ti raqaba, free a slave. He didn't say, do this, this, or this, pick one. And Nabi ﷺ gave him the order. He said, I can't do this. Then he said, okay, if you can't do this, then do this. He said, I can't do that. If you can't do that, then do this. So then the ulama say this here shows order. Right. The next hadith. Ran out. Tell the sheikh he got. Right. A quick benefit. We mention a benefit here. So the man said, he said that there's nobody afqaru minni. So faqir, miskin. How many people heard the term miskin before? What is miskin? Huh? It means you're poor. Right. So what about faqir? What's a faqir? Broke. So you have broke and poor. What's the difference between broke and poor? So what's broke? So everybody agree? Wait. Hold up. Time out. So we're gonna go with the order real quick. Does everybody agree with what he said? If you broke, then you got it, but you really don't got it. I'm talking the order here with the. So everyone agrees with what he said. So all right, explain that then. Go explain again. Does everyone agree with his statement? All right, go ahead, say it again.
I'm saying like you poor, like you absolutely don't have anything.
So if a person is poor, that means they don't have nothing.
Like they don't have nothing. No. Like the man, he said, I don't even have dates to give someone.
All right. And then what's broke?
Broke. I mean, you probably got. It's like maybe you're not making sacrifice with those dates. It's like you ain't like I probably could use it to eat for myself, but I do technically can't give it.
All right. Does everyone agree with that? We in agreement? All right. So you know what we just did there? In Islam, we have something called al-ada muhakkama, right? The customary practice of the people take precedence. In this particular case, if everyone agree with that, then that can be our orf as it relates to those two terms, poor and broke. Make sense? We'll talk about that in another class. Right. Here, mu'tamad al-madhab, the madhab of Imam Ahmed, it says, and al-faqir, a person that's faqir, because faqir and miskin, they both mean poor. But now you're going to explain it in detail. It says, أن الفقير أشد حاجة من المسكين. A person that's faqir, they're hurting worse than a person that's just miskin. Right? And it says that لأنه لم يجد نصف الكفاية. A poor person doesn't even have half of what they need to suffice themselves. A person that's faqir. He says, وَالْمِسْكِينَ وَجَدَ أَكْثَرُ كِفَايَتُهُ. A person that's miskin, they have most of the things that they need. إِلَّا أَنَّهَا إِذَا اجْتَمَعَ. So then, the person that's miskin, they have mostly everything that they need, but they just struggling. I mean, I might need an extra couple dollars to pay for this bill. I might need an extra couple dollars for this, that, and the next, right? But a person that's poor, they don't have nothing. They hurt real bad. So then, this is important to know. Anytime, إِذَا اجْتَمَعَ افترقا. If you hear the term fuqara and masakin together, if you hear it in the ayah, if you hear it in the hadith, if you hear the ulama, they talk and they mention a faqir and miskin together in the same sentence, they mean this meaning that I just mentioned. Meaning the one that is super poor and the one that has most of their necessities. However, if you hear them, إِذَا افترق اجتمعا. If you hear them used interchangeably, right? So like in this hadith, where the man says, La yujad afqaru minni. There's no Yeah, Sheikh. If you don't find any person poorer than me, then here in this narration, this would mean poor would mean miskin and poor together. So the qaida is, إذا اجتمعا افترقا وإذا افترقا اجتمعا. What does that mean? إذا اجتمعا, meaning if they're both together, then the meanings are different. وإذا افترقا, if you see them mentioned separately by themselves, then the meaning is the same. Is that clear? Did I lose you? I lost you? Yes. Yes. طيب. Next hadith. Do we still got it? You got it? All right. So now we're going to go into the bab Kitab as-Sawm fi safar, fasting while we are traveling. Fasting while we are traveling. طيب وغيره غير الصوم في السفر. All right. Before we get into the first hadith, is it possible for a person to fast while they're traveling? It's optional? So now, is there, before we start reading the hadith, is there a distinguishing factor that will determine whether a person can fast or not, or is open? There are. Okay. Has anyone ever fasted while they were traveling? In Ramadan? Has anyone ever broke their fast while they were traveling in Ramadan? Is there anyone here that believes that if you're traveling and you fast while you're traveling, you get extra reward for doing it? Yes, you do. There's people that believe that. Don't lie. Listen, don't lie. There's brothers and sisters here that believe, like me, I'm going hard this Ramadan. I'm not making up no days. You travel, and you're traveling, it's like, I'm not going to break my fast. I'm going to just fast. Maybe I get some extra reward for that. Tell me somebody that don't believe that. If you believe it, raise your hands, cool. I know it was you. Who else? He ain't the only one. You too. That's two. No, I get it. I get it. All right. This is why this particular chapter is important, because we want to learn some other things about our religion. Because a lot of us think like that. Man, shoot, if I'm traveling, some people believe if you endure hardship, that you're going to get more reward for the hardship. And I mean voluntary hardship, meaning you have an option of not to have hardship, but you say, I'm going to take the hardship because this probably get me closer. Right? We'll get to that later. Am I right, though? You agree? It's people here that you'll put yourself through hardship when you have the option of not to have hardship, but you think you get more reward for it. So, and Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he wasn't given the option to do two things, except that he chose the easier of the two. So, we're going to talk about these ahadith, inshallah ta'ala, and show how these hadith can benefit us when we apply them to our lives. And this is another thing. In Islam, anytime a person, and this goes for anyone, anytime a person finds difficulty in their lives, there's something we're leaving off from the Quran and the Sunnah. There's some form of disobedience of Allah that we're doing that causes our life to go through difficulties. Right. So the first hadith, An Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha, أن همزة بن عمرو الأسلمي رضي الله تعالى عنه قال للنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أصوم في السفر وكان كثير الصيام قال إن شئت فصوم وإن شئت فأفطر. Now this hadith is important. This hadith is important because An-Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, when we go through this chapter, you're going to learn he has different answers for different people in different circumstances. That's why it's important. There are different answers, different people, different circumstances. In this particular hadith, it says that it was said to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, Asumu fi safar, can I fast while I'm traveling? and he says, وَكَانَ كَثِيرَ الصِّيَامِ. He used to always fast. A person asked, he said to the Prophet, ﷺ, can I fast while I'm traveling? And then he added the caveat, I fast a lot. What do you understand from that? His body is accustomed to fasting. So what was the response the Prophet ﷺ said to him? He said, if you want to fast, then fast. And if you don't want to fast, then you don't have to fast. That's important. And understanding this hadith, there's a little part here that's important for us to hold on to. He says, وَكَانَ كَثِيرَ الصِّيَامِ. He used to fast a lot. Even though he used to fast a lot, the Prophet ﷺ also gave him an option. So does that mean, so then the question now is this. If I'm traveling and it's Ramadan and it's easy for me to fast, is it better for me to fast or is it better for me to break my fast? Is it better? We're talking about Ramadan. Is it better for a person to break their fast or to fast while you're traveling? And it's easy for you to do it. Some of the ulama say it's better to break your fast, and some of the ulama say it's better to fast.
Even if it's Ramadan is an obligation.
Right. So what does Allah say? What does Allah say about fasting when you're traveling? فَعِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ. Then Allah says, if you're sick or traveling, then you can make your days up later. That's what Allah says. فَعِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ. Make those days up another day. So then the question is it better to fast or is it better to break your fast? This is something that you have an option to do. It's optional. It's optional. طيب. That's that first hadith. Let's move on to the next one, inshallah. Do y'all have a copy of that? طيب. And this hadith. عن أنس بن مالك رضي الله تعالى عنه قال كنا نسافر مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فلم يعب الصائم على المفطر ولا المفطر على الصائم. This hadith is also very important. In this hadith, Anas ibn Malik radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, we were traveling with the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. فَلَمْ يَعِبَ الصَّائِمُ. A person that was fasting didn't look down on the one that wasn't fasting, and the one that wasn't fasting didn't look down on the one that was fasting. That's not like us. Imagine a bunch of us, the whole masjid get together and we travel somewhere in Ramadan. You're like, man, boy, broke his fast. That's corny. Tell me we wouldn't do that. Absolutely. And then the ones that broke their fast, man, they ain't following the sunnah, man. So now, in our community, that would have started beef between brothers. Right or wrong? So pay attention to this. And look at the hikmah, the wisdom. In this particular hadith, they knew that these hadiths were reached. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew that this would reach us. This right here would affect our community if we don't have these narrations. If we don't have these narrations, we're going to be looking at each other with a side eye. You know, we all traveling in this Ramadan, and you cool. Somebody like, man, why you break your fast? You cool? You don't seem tired? Why you break your fast? Man, that's corny. Right? No, I'm serious. Why? Because with us, we always we want to look down on somebody. Oh, he bull's a nut. He ain't even. And then be honest, with us, that might even separate brothers for real. Like now, you might not even speak to him. You might think his deen is whack now. Like man, he ain't even on the deen like that. He done ate the whole time. I'm just saying that's how we carry stuff. All right? We're extreme. You know, notice people that are extreme, the most extreme people are the most ignorant. Pay attention to that. The people that are the most extreme when it comes to the religion, they're the least knowledgeable. The least knowledgeable of the deen. Nasallahu salamu afiyah. So it says, Kunna nusafiru ma nabiyyi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And with that, they said, we were traveling with the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Falam ya'ib And the person that was fasting didn't look down on the ones that broke their fast, and vice versa. طيب, let's look at the next hadith. The next hadith. عن أبي درداء رضي الله تعالى عنه قال خرجنا مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في شهر رمضان. So now they're saying we traveled with the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام in the month of Ramadan. Now look, they're giving you, tasawwur. They're giving you the concept of what's happening. It says fi harrin shadid. That means that it was extremely hot during that time. Why is that important to mention? So that we understand the context. You need to understand the context of what's going on. You have to imagine right now you're traveling in Ramadan, and in some of these ahadith, like this one in particular, if I'm not mistaken. So some of these ahadith, when they're traveling like that, some of them, they could actually be going to war. And some of these ahadith, they were going to war. But in this particular hadith, it wasn't that. So here it says, في حر شديد حتى إن كان أحدنا لا يدع يده على رأسه من شدة حر. He said, we traveled with the Prophet ﷺ, and it was extremely hot. So much so that some of us would put our hands on our heads to block or try to shield the sun away. Right? Put our hands on our heads to try to block and shield the sun away. Right? It says, وَمَا فِينَا صَائِمٌ إِلَّا رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ وَعَبْدُ اللَّهِ بْنُ رَوَاحٍ. And he said, nobody, it was so hot that nobody fasted except for the Prophet ﷺ wa Abdullah ibn Rawah. Bas, only them two. Nobody else was able to fast during that time. That's something that also shows the capacity of the Prophet ﷺ. He had endurance that the rest of us just didn't have. And in this particular narration, Abdullah ibn Rawah was with him. He was with him. Right. And I want to mention this last hadith, and then we're going to stop and pick up tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala. And this last hadith, عن جابر بن عبد الله رضي الله تعالى عنهما قال كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في سفر. It said the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام was traveling. And in this particular hadith, they were in a war. So pay attention. The companions are traveling to go to battle. So it says, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في سفر فرأى زهاما ورجلا قد ظلل عليه. So they were all traveling, and there's war. And then the Prophet ﷺ saw one of the brothers, everybody was crowding around him, trying to shade him. فقال ما هذا. So the Prophet ﷺ said, what's this? What's going on? قالوا صائما. They said he's fasting. The Prophet ﷺ said, ليس من البر الصوم في السفر. He said it's not from piety to fast while you're traveling. And then he says, وَلِمُسْلِمْ عَلَيْكُمْ بِرُخْصَةِ اللَّهِ الَّتِي رَخَّصَ لَكُمْ. He said it's upon you to take the concessions that Allah gave you. All right. Now let's look at that hadith, and then we're gonna close out with that, inshallah. In this particular hadith, right now, every hadith we covered before this one, if you want to fast, fast. Everybody fast. You break your fast, don't break your fast. It's nothing. It ain't about nothing, right? But in this last hadith here, the Prophet ﷺ said there's no piety in fasting while you're traveling. What is that supposed to mean? We got all these hadiths. I can fast if I want to, don't fast if I don't have to. But in this particular hadith, it says that there's no piety in fasting. Why would the Prophet ﷺ say that? And does that contradict every hadith that came before that? And how are we supposed to understand that? And how do we implement that in our lives? No, it's not abrogated. And it has nothing to do with, even though they were in war, but some of the other hadith, they were in war too. Mumtaz. There's a hadith for every situation. So the fuqaha, the ulama of Islam, they take all of these ahadith and bring them together. And this is where fiqh comes from. This is why you have to be a faqih. This is why you can't get one hadith and run around and tell everybody, oh, so now, let's say a brother only read this hadith. Are y'all fasting? Psh, man, ain't no piety in doing that. Well, I'm a fast cause no, now we start calling people innovators and whatnot because we oppose one hadith. You see how that go? Went through all these hadith, and what's apparent is that they may contradict each other, right? Mumtaz. The fiqh of this hadith, it shows that there's no piety in fasting if it's going to cause harm to yourself. If you're weak, for example, you're in battle or whatever. So let's say you got to work. You have to travel out of town and you decide to fast, and then you can't take care of your family because you didn't choose to take the concession that Allah gave you. You didn't choose to take the concession that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you that will allow you to manage yourself and take care of yourself. Rather, in this hadith, you put yourself in a position that everyone else had to take care of you. When, if you would have took the concession that Allah gave you, you would have had the strength to be able to do what was necessary. So in that particular case, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam said there's no piety in fasting while you're traveling when you could have taken the concession that Allah gave you. So then the ultimate thing here is that each person, what's the one thing that we all can take from this? Is that every last one of us, we have to know ourselves. We have to know our capabilities and our own personal capacity. I may not be able to move like him. I know that about myself. I may have to fast. Or I may have to break my fast. You may be good at it, you may not. This is why Muslims do not compare your Islam to someone else. Be the best Muslim that you can be within the guidelines and framework of Islam. This is why some of us are tall, some of us are short, some of us big, some of us skinny, some of us strong, some of us weak, some of us smart, some of us not that smart, some of us can fight, some can't fight, some do business, some can't. Everybody's different. And everybody has a different lane. And this is why we have all of these ahadith, because it fits somebody. Every hadith may not fit everybody. That may not be your situation. You may not be able to worship Allah the way that he can worship Allah. Right? But guess what? You're doing it within your capabilities. That's what you got to do to get yourself right with your Lord. Inshallah ta'ala, we're going to stop with that. We'll finish tomorrow. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
You're not taking any questions? Just one quick question.
Fadl Sheikh. Go ahead. I was trying to get out of here without no questions. Go ahead.
I'm not asking for
Go ahead, Sheikh. Go ahead.
in regard to at what point do you begin to, if I'm choosing to break my fast while traveling, at what point can I restart can I break my fast?
Mumtaz. So let's back up real quick. The brother asked, what is traveling earlier? We're going to talk about that. Remind us to talk about that tomorrow. And in that question, let's talk about that tomorrow, because we're going to do it both days, inshallah. All right? Inshallah, we'll complete that tomorrow, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I don't even know how to stop this, man. Where the Sheikh at?